I'm Bob Sansevere with TwinCities.com. Web Sports producer Kevin Cusick. Kevin, the Wild are going into the playoffs against the Colorado Avalanche, a team they've lost to 4 of the 5 times they've played this year, but they have a really good record, 13-3-3 over the last 19 games in Colorado. The one thing that would be alarming is the last outing that the goaltender for the Wild had, Ilya Bryzgalov. He got shelled. Now, they weren't trying. Guys were not trying to play much defense. Nobody wanted to get hurt. But why even put him in the net?
Yeah, it's not getting as bad as the NBA, where teams over the last 2 days of the season are actively trying to lose in order to set up playoff matchups. But I wouldn't judge Bryzgalov too badly off that. The big key to this series is going to be the other goalie, Varlamov of Colorado, who's a candidate for the Vezina Trophy, one of the top 3 goalies in the league this year. But he did have a kind of a rough year. He had that assault charge, domestic assault, earlier in the year that was investigated and then dropped. And then, of course, he was fairly or unfairly deemed to be the GOAT of Russia's very brief, it turns out, stay in the Olympic hockey tournament. But that's the big advantage in the when you look on paper, is that Colorado's got the better goaltending, although Bryzgalov has played way better than expected and way more than expected since the Wild picked him up. So in some ways, it's kind of as good a matchup as the Wild could ask for.
Better than the other options.
It's a team they could beat. It's a team that's been kind of up and down, a team that's been really no better than them over the last month. And so you're probably looking at a 6 or 7 game series, and whoever has the hotter goalie, which is how these playoffs usually work.
Well, the Wild better hope that Bryzgalov is not going to be playing the way he did in other postseasons with other teams, because he was none too impressive.
Yeah, he's been kind of up and down. He's been better. Play. He's been better on paper in terms of quotes on paper than he's been actually in the net sometimes. But again, with Varlamov, he could be great. He could lay an egg, and if the pressure starts to build, then he starts thinking back to Sochi and just the complete debacle that turned out to be for Russian hockey. So,
speaking of debacles, you get Phil Hughes through 5 innings, and then it turns south. He's gone 5 innings in each of his 3 starts, and last night looked good through 5, and then he just blew up when he went to the 6th inning. 4 quick hits, 4 earned runs, and he was gone again. He'll give you 5.
And give up 4.
That's what he's done in all of them.
They say I want to look at it more of a glass half full. If you realize, if you take out the first inning of his last start when he gave up not till his 30th pitch did he get his first out.
Yeah.
Then he was great, and then he was great for the first 4+ innings or 5 innings yesterday.
You are glass half full there for sure.
You put those 9 innings together, and you have
Cy Young.
You have a Cy Young level Phil Hughes. So, we had said last week about how the Twins' pitching would probably not be as bad as it had been in the beginning, and the hitting not as great. Well, that's pretty much what's happened the last week. They've gone, I think, 3-3 since then. They got 3 good starts and 3.5 good starts before Hughes and the defense blew up yesterday. And the offense has cooled off. But basically, the Twins just kind of, maintaining a relatively even keel, 6-7. The big test is going to be the next week and a half. They're playing Tampa.
Like a Kansas City coming up, too.
Like a Kansas City. And Kansas City, which is, very disappointing.
They own them!
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see about that.
But after 3 in Kansas City, I think they have 3 in Tampa, and then they have Detroit and the Dodgers here. That's 9 games in a row. It's going to tell you a lot about the Twins. If they can maybe get 4 out of those 9 and still be somewhere close to 500 after that, and then you can say they're clearly an improved team. But this next 2 weeks has a chance for much danger.
The Timberwolves, they flirted with 500 all season, and for them to, it's a disappointment the season they had. Yet with the Twins, if they could flirt with 500, people would be very excited because they've lowered the bar so much over the last 3 years.
They're on pace now for 75. So that would be about a 9-game improvement over last year. So,
there'll be revelers in the street,
dancing in the streets. Might have a parade.
You may have to be careful in Dinkytown if that were to happen.
Oh, let's have some more of the mooning of cops.
That's not the brightest move that young man ever made.
No, and the rule of thumb is generally it's very hard to pull your pants up after you're already handcuffed. So if you see an arrest imminent,
Keep your drawers up.
My first move is to pull up the pants. And just generally in any situation, pulling up your pants should be a good first move.
I think, Kevin, that in both of our cases, keeping our pants up would be a very good move because it's not fair to all the other people
You know what another good move
watching.
is? As CJ can tell you, generally when we talk about the Vikings, we have much higher traffic on the internets than when we talk about other topics. So therefore, I think we should mention the Vikings.
Vikings draft coming up less than a month. 8th overall pick. I believe, very quickly, they will trade down into the teens. They'll get picks so that they can then trade up into the 20s to get their quarterback.
I think that's what they'd like to do. Whether they end up doing that or not remains to be seen. A lot of people still think that Johnny Manziel will be there at number 8 and will be too irresistible.
Too tantalizing?
With his 32 Wonderlic score, which is
that impressed me.
Which is about 5 or 6 times Vince Young's.
So, Dan Marino was a 15, and he didn't have a bad career. Though he never won a Super Bowl. Had he been a little higher, maybe he could have figured something out in that game. Doubtful.
Probably.
Anyway, Kevin Cusick, Bob Sansevere, CJ Sinner. Wave to everyone again. There you go. It's sort of like the Addams Family. All you saw was Thing's hand. Well, you're not a Thing. You're a CJ. And we'll see you.
That's a great closing line.
Another day.